The night sky above the colony of Vayara burned with fire. Enemy ships hung like shadows in orbit, raining destruction down on the world below. Towers crumbled, forests burned, and screams echoed through the air. The colonists had never faced such terror before. They were farmers, traders, and builders, never soldiers. And yet the enemy came with no mercy. The Zorath Empire, ruthless, cold, hungry for conquest. Every few hours, the colonists sent a desperate signal across the stars. "Help us, anyone, please." The signal jumped from system to system, carried by ancient relays reaching the centers of power. The great empires heard it. The Galactic Council heard it. They all heard the cry for help, but no one moved. In the council chambers, the distress call was discussed like a minor issue. Too far, too costly, too dangerous. The colony had little value. Saving it would bring risk but no reward. The empires whispered the same excuse. Why should we spill blood for them? Better to let the Zorath take it. Back on Vayara, people huddled in broken shelters, eyes fixed on the skies. They waited for ships that never came. Days passed, hope drained away, and despair grew heavier with each sunrise. A young colonist named Saren watched the stars every night. She whispered to herself, "Someone will come. Someone has to." But the elders shook their heads. "No one is coming, child. We are forgotten." The final beacon was prepared. It was weak, its power nearly gone. The engineers said it would last only a few more hours before the signal died forever. The colonists gathered in silence as it was sent. A single last message filled with the voices of children, mothers, and the dying. Across the galaxy, the signal reached countless worlds. Some heard it and deleted it at once. Others ignored it as background noise. The council filed it away into endless records. The galaxy had turned its back. The Zorath ships above Vayara tightened their net. The final attack was near. Colonists began to dig into the ground, hiding in caverns, though they knew it would not save them. Then, it happened. A faint signal returned, not from the council, not from any empire, not from those who claimed to keep peace. This one was different. Rough, direct. The translation came broken, but the meaning was clear. "We hear you. Hold on, help is coming." The colonists froze. Whispers spread through the bunker halls. Someone answered? Who? Which empire? The engineers ran scans, checked the source, and then stared in disbelief. The signal was traced back to a world most had only heard of in rumors. A place dismissed as dangerous. A place most galactic maps marked with warnings. Earth, the humans. At first, the colonists could not believe it. The humans were newcomers to the stars. Too small, too young, too wild. The council had never trusted them, never allowed them real power. Many empires mocked them as primitives, saying they came from a cursed death world. And yet, in their darkest hour, when the galaxy turned away, it was Earth that answered. The colony of Vayara held its breath. Could humans truly stand against the Zorath? Could they survive a battle the council itself feared to fight? Rumors had always spread about humans, about their strange courage, about how they thrived in places others could not. Some called them reckless. Some called them insane. But now, with the enemy above their heads, the colonists clung to those rumors as hope. Hours passed. The skies above were still full of Zorath warships. No human fleet had yet appeared. Some feared it had been a trick, a false hope to torment them. But deep in the void, far beyond the colony, Terran warships were already moving. Engines burned hotter than regulation allowed. Weapons were armed and crews sat ready at battle stations. The humans had received the call, and they were coming. The colonists of Vayara did not know this yet. They could only stare at the stars and pray. The Zorath commander gave his order. Final strike, no survivors. The enemy fleet shifted position, preparing to fall upon the defenseless world. Just as the first wave began to descend, the sensors of the Zorath flagship detected something unusual. Small signals, faint but growing stronger, appeared at the edge of the system. The Zorath commander frowned. Impossible. No one dares challenge us here, but the signals grew sharper. Ships, not alien empires. Not the council. Not smugglers or raiders. Humans. For the first time, the Zorath commander hesitated. His voice trembled with a mix of surprise and irritation. Terrans here? On Vayara, the colonists saw it too. Tiny streaks of light cutting across the night sky. Engines burning bright, they were not large in number. They were not grand like the fleets of empires. But they were real. The humans had come, and with them came a promise whispered into the dark. The galaxy may abandon you. We will not. The colonists felt something they thought they had lost forever. Hope. The first human transmission to Vayara was short, simple, and carried a weight heavier than any council decree. Hold the line. The war begins now. The galaxy had ignored the plea, but humanity had answered, and the unexpected war was about to begin. The first human ships entered the Vayara system like sparks cutting through the void. They were not huge like the dreadnoughts of the Zorath Empire. They were not sleek like the vessels of the Council. To many eyes they looked rough, almost crude, like machines built for one purpose only: war. At first the colonists could not believe what they were seeing. Their communication screens lit up with signals carrying Terran voices. A woman's voice, firm and sharp, echoed through the colony's command center. "This is Commander Alvarez of the Terran Defense Fleet. We have received your distress signal. You are not alone. Prepare for defensive coordination." The colonists stared at one another in silence. Tears welled in many eyes. Someone had come. Someone had answered, but in orbit the Zorath commander laughed when the Terran fleet appeared. His name was Varkesh, a veteran of dozens of campaigns. He had crushed colonies across the stars, and none had stood against him. His warships outnumbered the humans 5-1. His fleet was larger, heavier, and equipped with weapons feared across the galaxy. "Terrans," he sneered. "They think they can challenge us. Their fleet is a joke. They are nothing but savages from a cursed world." Yet, despite his mocking words, Varkesh gave the order to ready all weapons. Something about the humans unsettled him. Their ships moved strangely, fast, sharp, like predators circling prey. On the colony below, the people gathered on rooftops and bunkers to watch the night sky. Streaks of light danced above them, and for the first time, those lights were not only death and fire, they were hope. Saren, the young colonist who had refused to stop believing, gripped her mother's hand. "They came," she whispered. "The humans really came." Her mother could not speak. She only nodded, tears streaming down her face. Above them, the battle began. The Terran fleet surged forward. Their ships were smaller but faster, darting between enemy formations like wolves among a herd. The Zorath opened fire, filling space with blazing energy beams. Yet the humans did not scatter or break. They cut across the fire, engines burning hotter than safety limits. The colonists listening to open channels heard the Terran crews shouting to one another, their voices hard with determination. "Target locked. Shields holding. Push forward. Push forward." Unlike the careful, measured voices of other empires, the Terrans spoke with raw intensity. They sounded alive, fierce, unyielding. The first Zorath destroyer fell within minutes. It erupted in a ball of fire, torn apart by concentrated Terran missiles. Another followed, ambushed at close range by a Terran corvette that slipped beneath its shields. The colonists gasped. For the first time they saw Zorath ships destroyed, their terror broken. The impossible was happening before their eyes. But the battle was far from easy. Human ships were hit too. One frigate spun out of formation, its hull torn open, vanishing in a silent explosion. Another was crippled, drifting. But even then its last act was to ram into an enemy cruiser, taking the foe down with it. On the command ship, Commander Alvarez stood unshaken. She knew they were outnumbered, but she also knew something the Zorath did not. Humans had fought against extinction many times in their own history. On Earth, every war, every disaster, every struggle had forged them into something no council law could measure. They were Deathworlders, born on a world that killed the weak and rewarded the strong. And here in the stars they carried that legacy. The Zorath commander, Varkesh, grew restless. "Why do they fight like this?" he muttered. "They should be running. They should be breaking." But the Terrans were not running. They were advancing. Varkesh tried to reassure himself. They are reckless. They will burn themselves out. Yet deep down, a cold truth gnawed at him. This was not recklessness. This was something else, something he had never seen before. A will to fight that would not die. On Vayara, the colonists listened to fragments of Terran transmissions, voices filled with courage even in the face of death. Each word burned into their hearts. They began to chant together, whispering the name of the race that had saved them. Humans, humans, humans. But the battle was far from over. The Zorath fleet was still larger. More reinforcements were on the way. Alvarez knew this. She stared at the tactical screen, at the swarm of red enemy markers still crowding the void. She spoke into her comms. We cannot retreat. Not now. If we fall, this colony falls. And if this colony falls, the galaxy will know no one can be saved. We hold. Do you hear me? We hold. Her crew shouted back as one. We hold. The humans pushed forward again. Weapons are. The war over Vayara had only begun. The first Terran strike had shocked the galaxy. For the first time, Zorath warships had been destroyed by a force considered too small, too weak, too primitive. But the battle was not over. Far from it. Above the burning colony, wreckage drifted in silence. Exploded hulls glowed faintly as they spun through the void. The Zorath fleet, though wounded, still outnumbered the humans. Their cruisers and destroyers regrouped into a wall of steel and fire, weapons glowing with deadly energy. On her command ship, Resolute, Commander Alvarez studied the tactical map. Red icons filled the screen, showing enemy vessels closing in. Blue icons, her fleet, were far fewer. Many were damaged, shields flickering, hulls torn open. Her second officer frowned. We can't win a straight fight, Commander. They're too many. Alvarez's eyes hardened. Then we don't fight straight. She leaned over the console, her voice sharp. Signal the fleet. Break formation. Engage in packs of 2 and 3. Strike fast, strike hard, then vanish. We will hunt them like predators. Make the Zorath bleed for every meter of space. Orders spread across the Terran fleet. Engines flared, and suddenly the neat human formation broke apart. To the colonists watching from below, it looked as if the humans were scattering, fleeing in fear. But in truth, they were changing the rules of war. The Zorath commander Varkesh sneered at the sight. Pathetic. They run like animals, but seconds later, his sneer froze. A human frigate shot out from the darkness and tore through one of his destroyers at point-blank range, unleashing missiles before vanishing again. Another pack of Terran ships disabled a cruiser's engines, leaving it helpless before a final strike reduced it to rubble. The humans were not running. They were circling. They were hunting. On Vayara, colonists huddled in bunkers listened to intercepted Terran comms. Voices rang out through static filled with fury and fire. Pack 3, strike now. Target crippled, finish them. Another down. Move, move. Each word sent shivers through the listeners. This was no polished, careful speech of empires. This was the voice of fighters who had decided death would not come quietly. The Zorath began to lose ships, fast. Their formation shattered as they tried to chase the smaller Terran packs. Massive cruisers fired wildly, but the humans used their own size against them, slipping between them and forcing friendly fire. Varkesh roared in frustration. Stop them! Stop them! His claws tore across the console. They are nothing but Deathworld vermin. Crush them! But his own officers shifted nervously. They had fought many enemies, but never like this. Most species broke under fear. Most begged for mercy when outnumbered. But humans fought harder. Every ship destroyed only seemed to drive the survivors to greater fury. Back on Resolute, Alvarez stood firm. Her fleet was bleeding, yes, but the enemy was bleeding more. She opened a channel to the colony below. Her face appeared on the colonists' screens, calm and steady. People of Vayara, you are not abandoned. We fight for you. Hold your shelters. Stay alive. We will not leave you. The colonists wept at her words. For the first time, someone had spoken to them not as victims, but as people worth saving. The battle raged on. Explosions lit the sky. Human ships vanished into wreckage fields using debris as cover before striking out again. Each attack was sudden, brutal, merciless. One colonist whispered in awe, "They fight like predators." Saren, the young girl who never gave up hope, answered, "No, they fight like us. They fight because they know what it's like to be forgotten." Hours dragged on. The void became a graveyard. Wrecks floated endlessly, drifting between burning stars. Finally, the Zorath flagship itself was struck. A pack of Terran corvettes pierced its shields, detonating warheads across its hull. Alarms screamed inside Varkesh's command bridge. For the first time in his career, Varkesh felt fear. His eyes burned with rage. They dare strike me? Then let them see true power. He slammed his claw against the console, activating the signal for reinforcements. A hidden reserve fleet waiting beyond the system answered the call. The colonists below watched in horror as new signals appeared in the sky. Dozens of fresh enemy ships, larger and stronger, entered the system. On Resolute, Alvarez clenched her jaw. She had known the Zorath would send more, but not this many. Her second officer whispered, "We're outmatched. We can't hold against that." For a long moment, silence hung in the command deck. The Terran fleet was battered, their numbers thin. But then Alvarez spoke, her voice cold and sharp as steel. "No, we don't retreat. We fight. If we fall here, then the galaxy will believe no one can stand against the Zorath. We show them the truth. Even if it kills us," her crew responded as one. "Aye, Commander. To the end." The humans turned toward the oncoming storm. In the council chambers far across the galaxy, silent watchers stared at the reports with disbelief. No empire would have fought this long against such odds. No empire would have risked annihilation for a single colony. But humans were not like the others. Back in orbit as the Zorath reinforcements closed in, Alvarez gave her final order. "Pack formations. Engines to maximum. We strike first. Make them bleed." The Terran fleet surged forward, small and defiant, racing into the jaws of a force that should have destroyed them. The colonists prayed. The Zorath laughed. The council trembled. And in the darkness of space, humanity showed the galaxy what it meant to be born of a death world. The void above Vayara was chaos. Human ships darted through enemy fire, striking in sudden bursts before disappearing into the wreckage fields. The Zorath fleet, though massive, was bleeding. Each clash left more of their warships shattered, burning or drifting powerless into the endless dark. But for every enemy destroyed, more arrived. Reinforcements poured into the system, forming a wall of steel that seemed impossible to break. On the colony below, the people watched the battle with wide eyes. Every flash of light in the sky might have been the death of the humans or the death of their oppressors. And then, something changed. For the first time, streaks of fire did not fall from the Zorath fleet. Instead, they came from Terran transports breaking through the blockade. They descended through the atmosphere like shooting stars, engines screaming, shields glowing red against the pressure. The colonists gasped. The humans weren't just fighting in space. They were coming down to the ground. Saren, standing in a crowded shelter, felt her chest tighten as the transports roared overhead. "They're here," she whispered. "They're really here." When the transports landed, ramps dropped and Terran Marines stormed out. Their armor was black, scarred, and heavy, their weapons humming with energy. They moved like shadows, disciplined and fast. "Secure the perimeter," one shouted, his voice firm and commanding. "Civilians behind the barricades." The colonists stared at the humans in awe. These were no farmers or traders. These were soldiers who had come to fight for them. The Zorath were quick to respond. Dropships poured from orbit, carrying troops armed with plasma rifles and clawed blades. They landed across the colony, ready to crush the last resistance. The ground shook with explosions. Streets turned into battlefields. The humans met the Zorath head-on. Gunfire thundered. Plasma bolts tore through the air. Explosions rocked the ruined buildings as humans and colonists fought side by side. For the first time, the colonists lifted weapons. Farmers gripped old rifles. Traders held scavenged pistols. Even children carried messages, food, and water to the fighters. They had been powerless for so long, but with the humans beside them, something had changed. Fear turned into fury. One colonist shouted, "For Vayara," and the cry spread like fire. The people, once broken and hopeless, rose up. Commander Alvarez watched the battle from orbit. Reports poured in from her Marines on the ground. The colonists were no longer hiding. They were standing with her soldiers. She allowed herself a rare smile. "Good, let them fight. Let them remember they are not prey." But her smile faded as new warnings flashed across her console. A massive energy spike at the edge of the system. Something enormous was coming. The bridge went silent as the scanners finished their reading. It was not another fleet. It was worse, a dreadnought. The screen lit up with its profile, colossal, armored, bristling with weapons that dwarfed anything the humans had faced. It was so large it cast shadows across the colony as it emerged from the void. Gasps filled the Terran command deck. Even Alvarez's hardened officers felt the weight of it. On the ground, people stopped fighting for a brief moment as the shape appeared in the sky. It looked less like a ship and more like a floating mountain, blotting out the stars. Saren clutched her mother's hand. "What is that?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Her mother had no answer. The Zorath soldiers roared with renewed confidence. Their commander's voice echoed through the channels. "Behold the Empire's might. Kneel before your end." Panic spread among the colonists. Some dropped their weapons. Some covered their children's eyes. Even the bravest felt despair crawling back into their hearts. But then a new voice thundered across the comms, strong and clear. "Commander Alvarez, listen to me, people of Vayara. Do not bow. Do not surrender. That thing may be larger, but size does not decide a battle. Will does, and humanity will not break." Her words cut through the fear. Soldiers and colonists alike steadied themselves, eyes turned back toward the fight. In orbit, the dreadnought's weapons began to charge. A glow built at its center, brighter and brighter. The Empire's fleet entered the colony system like a storm. Dark ships armed with weapons that had crushed 100 worlds formed a wall of steel and fire. The colonists could only watch from their shelters, praying to survive a little longer. But then, another fleet appeared. At first it seemed small, nothing compared to the Empire's armada. Only a dozen Terran ships, black and angular, emerging from hyperspace one by one. The enemy commanders laughed. Is this all the humans can bring? A handful of warships against an empire? They didn't understand. The Terrans had not come with numbers. They had come with purpose. The lead Terran ship, TSV Resolute, broadcast a simple message across the system. Your reign of terror ends here. The Empire answered with a wall of missiles. Thousands streaked toward the human fleet. To the colonists, it looked like the end. No force in the galaxy could survive such a storm. But the Terrans were not like the others. Human ships twisted, dodged, and fired interceptors at impossible speeds. Energy shields shimmered, absorbing impacts that should have torn them apart. Then, the counterattack began. The Resolute launched a single weapon, small compared to the Empire's barrage. A glowing spear of plasma, guided with deadly accuracy, shot forward. It tore through the Empire's command ship in one strike, splitting it apart like paper. The sky filled with fire. The Empire's laughter turned to silence. For the first time in centuries, their fleet hesitated. They had faced rebellions, resistance, uprisings, but never this. Never humans. On the colony below, the aliens watched the impossible happen. For so long, they had begged for help only to be ignored. Now their skies burned, but not with their destruction. It burned with hope. Yet even as the Empire's fleet wavered, new danger loomed. Reinforcements were coming. Thousands more ships were on their way, and the Terrans knew it. This battle was not just for one colony. It was a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity has answered the call. We will not stand aside. The colonists cheered through tears. For the first time, their prayers had been heard. But deep inside, they also feared. The war was only beginning, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The Empire's reinforcements arrived like a tidal wave. Hundreds of warships ripped out of hyperspace, their weapons already locked on target. The colony's skies turned dark as metal blotted out the stars. The colonists trembled. Even with the Terrans here, what hope could a dozen ships have against such a force? But the humans did not retreat. On the TSV Resolute, Admiral Hayes gave his order. Send the signal. Begin Operation Iron Sky. Moments later, the void itself seemed to open, one by one. Colossal Terran warships emerged. Dreadnoughts larger than cities. Carriers bristling with fighters. Ships that dwarfed even the Empire's greatest vessels. The Terran fleet had arrived in full strength. The galaxy had believed Earth was weak. They had laughed at humanity, called them reckless, too young, too fragile. But here now the truth was revealed. Humanity had been preparing, quietly building, waiting for the moment when the galaxy would need them most. The Empire's commanders panicked. Their neat formation broke as the Terran juggernauts advanced. The battle began. Terran fighters screamed through the void, weaving between enemy lines and cutting ships apart with precision strikes. Dreadnought cannons roared, each shot tearing through multiple Empire cruisers at once. Where the Empire relied on numbers, humans relied on speed, strategy, and sheer determination. The colony below shook as fire lit up the heavens. Then came the weapon the galaxy had never seen before. From the belly of the Terran flagship, a massive device unfolded, an orbital rail cannon stretching across the ship's hull. Its power core glowed brighter than a star. With a deafening crack, it fired. A beam of kinetic energy sliced across the void, vaporizing half the enemy fleet in a single shot. The Empire screamed in fear. The colonists, watching from below, could not believe their eyes. The same humans who had been mocked, ignored, and cast aside by the Council had become the saviors of an entire world. Within hours, the Empire's fleet was shattered. Survivors fled into the void, their proud banners burned away by Terran fire. The silence that followed was heavy. The colonists stepped out of their shelters, staring at the Terran fleet that hung above their world. Not as conquerors, not as overlords, but as protectors. Admiral Hayes's voice carried across every channel, across every star. To any world still enslaved, still ignored, still crying out for help, know this: humanity hears you. And we will answer. The colony erupted in cheers. For the first time they felt safe. For the first time they believed in hope. The galaxy had turned its back on them. The empires had abandoned them. But when the final call was made, only one force had come: humanity. And the galaxy would never forget it.